Brian, the stock, I have no, this is Tuesday probably as we're showing this. And so by Tuesday night, which is when this will show, the stock could be at, I don't know, 700, the way it's going up every day. But as we're recording it, I think it was trying to break through 360, but it's not quite there yet. It's tried and tried, but 357, 358. Anyway, but Brian, there's a bunch of catalysts. I personally have said, I'm going to repeat it again, I don't think that it'll get to all-time high until the end of January, unless one more catalyst comes into play. It's going to take something else. Earnings could be the catalyst, but that's what I'm counting on with nothing else in between. Juniper could come in between. Version 2.5 could come in between. And one other thing that could come in between, which a lot of people think could happen and probably should happen, is maybe somebody will license FSD. What do you think about that?
I think somebody should. I think somebody should throw their hat in that ring, and I think it would break the dam. I think it would, just like when Ford jumped on the NACS train, it would normalize it for other legacy car companies, for other car companies. If you're a small car company and you don't have $10 billion to invest in your own bespoke version of FSD, which might work in 10 or 15 or 20 or never years, then you got to partner with someone. And it's not that anyone's dance cards will get full, but I think with version 13 rolling out, we're starting to see some competencies that were unexpected. And those will allow a little bit of comfort for those other companies to decide that maybe now is the time to pick a horse.
All right, let's talk about some of the horses. I'm curious to know who we think might be the first to do it. Now, there's no longer a big three in America because the third member of the triumvirate has now become a Swiss, French, they're like three headquarters and corporate something. Anyway, Stellantis is not an American company anymore, not even close. So let's talk about Ford and General Motors. Ford maybe has been everybody's top pick. General Motors has probably been everybody's least likely pick. What do you think about those two? Do you think that one of those two will be first?
Ford or GM? Well, between the two, it would clearly be Ford. Jim Farley has a fantastic working relationship with Elon. They seem to have mutual respect in enough ways where I think with GM, it's just nothing but a bitter and acrimonious relationship. I think that we would be more likely to see Ford. And I don't see Ford's approach, Blue Cruise, being remotely possible for scaling. I think it works great as a highway driver assist. You can use it off the highway, but I wouldn't. I don't know how comfortable I would feel. I've seen it in action. I've had a chance to drive it. I would not want that for my drive. There are, ways to do it, but the question is now the right time for them? Who are they looking at? Who are their alternatives? Mobileye? I don't believe Mobileye has the solution. They certainly don't have the wealth of training data. Tesla sells over 5,000 cars a day. How many companies have 5,000 cars in total from which they can gather data? So I think it's tricky. I'd say, honestly, between those two, I'd say Ford, but really neither.
Okay. So they're not in your likely picks. Now, what about the other companies from wherever they are in the world, whether it's Korea, whether it's Japan, whether it's Germany, that have manufacturing in the US? I would think that getting the US market would be the top of mind for everybody as for FSD first, because the US market can afford it better. And so, we have Hyundai, Kia, Honda, Toyota. We have, a bunch of different makers who have plants, Stellantis, who have plants here in the US or in Mexico feeding the US. Any of those come to mind that you think might be a likely candidate?
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
I think Nissan is not long for this world. I think them announcing it could be a Hail Mary.
Mm.
I think that's a very strong possibility. Hyundai strikes me as too entrenched in their own ways. They've got fantastic engineering, and I imagine they would have the hubris to believe they could do it themselves. I don't believe that they are correct, but I could see why a company with an engineering bench as deep as theirs would believe that. Uh, in terms of Toyota, I don't know. It's worth looking beyond the US market. The US market is uh, richer than a lot of markets. They could afford something like this better. But Europe is also rich. Their problem is regulations are holding it back. If those regulations were to stop tomorrow, we could see a small company say, look, we're ready to commit. We will partner up. But again, this early, I think it'd be wise for a small company to just say they're partnering up, just sign a memorandum of understanding rather than an actual contract, just so that they can bump themselves up a bit. In terms of big players, I don't know, man. I think they're all going to rely on their name brands to carry them rather than their actual competencies. People are buying the Subaru Solterra and loving it because it's a Subaru and they are Subaru people. I met a man who owned a Toyota BZ4X, yes, the Buzz Forks itself, and uh, he said, I test drove it. And, these are just as good as Teslas. I said, wow, have you driven a Tesla? He goes, no, but they're basically the same. I mean, yeah, they do have the same number of wheels. That's true. And he's Toyota brand loyal and he got a heck of a deal on a lease. It worked for him. So these companies can be 3 to 5 years behind the curve and still do well. And when Tesla or other autonomous car companies begin eating their lunch, they'll invest, as they always have, in misinformation campaigns.
So the Germans and Stellantis, AJ has been reporting almost daily that the German companies, all of them, including Mercedes and Stellantis, are just going down the tubes, like at like a water park, tube ride. Get it? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I have been to water parks. I love it. Yes, the big drain at the end. That's a fun ride. So
So
here's,
it would
yeah,
seem to me if you're going down the tubes, you said a Hail Mary. Well, these wouldn't, none of them quite fit into the Hail Mary yet. But if your trajectory is that steep, it would seem like maybe one of them would consider the Hail Mary.
I could see BMW doing that. BMW is not in an acrimonious battle, a nasty fight with, they don't have bad blood with Tesla that I'm aware of, although the uh, 3 Series and the Teslas do compete head to head quite a bit. I could see that being something where a company the size of BMW would be interested in a partnership like that. There's a lot of potential benefit. We're just waiting to see the regulations get a bit normalized in Europe. But once they are, open the floodgates, right? I think Stellantis would be wise to announce it. I don't think they are a wise company. I don't see that happening. The wisdom is lacking. So yeah, I don't think that's unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen. And you've got to look at it from the perspective of cost. Tesla would surely say, we want you to put it on every single car. And they'd say, it's thousands of dollars between the chips, the labor, the integration, the engineering validation. You want us to put it on every car, even though we're only going to have a take rate of 5 or 10 or even 20%. That makes it cost prohibitive. It's like, yes, but that's how we got the data. That's how we got to where we are. We made that difficult decision, and now we are starting to see it pay off. You have to get the flywheel spun up before you can enjoy the fact that it has its own momentum. And if you look at something like Starlink, even, they've got 6,000 plus satellites in orbit and are just now about to break even. That's the sort of long-term thinking you need. If I'd have told you 10 years ago, I'm going to put the most sophisticated computers and sensors that have ever gone into a production vehicle in every single car, even the people who don't want it, you'd have probably told me that's a poor financial decision. But here we are, and it worked
Yes.
so far.
Okay, so now we go over to China. I mean, well, we could go to Japan. However, I don't think that you think Honda is going to be the, oh,
I think Honda could.
oh,
Honda's small enough they could, and Honda is, they don't fancy themselves the caliber of engineers that Toyota does. Honda doesn't, they've got their Asimo robots, but but Toyota is a, global conglomerate where Honda is just a very good car company. So I could see Honda, I could see Suzuki, I could see Mitsubishi, all of the smaller ones, and again, Nissan as well. But let's talk China.
yeah, that would be maybe I've always said the most likely. There's only four. Remember that Elon had said he'd like a company to have substantial unit sales. So we've got the BAIC and B. I'm always getting it.
Yes,
BAIC,
BAIC, SAIC,
BAIC,
JAC, GAC,
Geely,
Geely, Neo,
Neo,
Lee,
B. But I
yeah,
don't think. Well, anyway,
Xiaopeng.
okay. And then we have. So we have all of them. Is there any particular ones of those that you would imagine?
Specific ones? No. It could be any of them. It could be all of them. It could be none of them. There are very advanced systems already in China that are competing directly with services like Waymo and Cruise. They already have robotaxis in China. They're just not as automated as they would like them to be. And I suspect, but do not know for sure, that they would prefer to work with a homegrown company over Tesla. And I imagine the homegrown company would be more affordable and more amenable to the kind of deal that would just get their name out there, where they would perhaps give them the technology at even a loss, just so they could say, look, we've already got this many cars with our equipment out there. So I think China would be a tougher sell because they have so many companies already trying to do this and many of them succeeding. And I think Tesla would be the best, but most expensive option by a lot.
But the ones that are succeeding with a remote driver. So
Mhm.
it's not
So,
gonna work.
you mean Waymo?
Huh?
Yes, but the plan is that they'll be remote operating less and less
I
as
see.
time goes on, and eventually none at all.
But how would that even happen? Well, you're saying because of LiDAR?
No, no. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, how are they going to, without the data, without the,
Well, they're gathering the data now.
but they
That's how
don't
they
have,
do it.
but they don't have 100,000 GPUs managing the data. They don't have the historical data. They don't have all the work that Tesla's already put in. I mean, they could be 10 years behind, even if they're doing well
Uh,
with remote drivers.
yes, and we don't know where they're at. I don't. I think it's still too early to know who's winning. If somebody, somebody could have a much cleverer approach that uses far less compute, and we wouldn't know it because they definitely wouldn't tell us. And a lot of companies say that they have that, and I don't necessarily believe them. So until the products are out, I don't know what we've got. And I think that close personal friendships are what's going to be the thing that sells this. People who know each other from different companies will want to work together. So again, Tesla in China could be everybody, could be nobody.
Well, then that leaves the biggest gorilla in the room, who's now running 500,000 cars a month. 500,000 cars a month from BYD. Holy
Yeah.
mackerel. They are now a 6 million run rate car company, putting them, I think, sixth in the world. I mean, they're catching
It,
up to Stellantis.
yeah.
They're catching up to, I mean, holy gentlemen,
Everybody.
everybody.
They're yeah. Yeah, they were quite the sleeping giant, weren't they? Uh,
Man.
I don't know what BYD would do, but I would assume they would want to keep it in-house. I think it would be admitting defeat in an important aspect of the business. And a lot of the cars BYD sells would not be affordable to the buyers who buy them if you were to add 2 grand in compute and sensors and engineering and installation and all that.
Okay. All right, so let's see. I'm going to give my I'm going to throw out my theories on this. I think that the reasons for Ford that you gave are correct, even though you don't think it'll happen soon. But I think Ford is the maybe of the U.S. group is the most likely. I'm going to say I don't know why, but I have this leaning towards Hyundai Kia. I think the Koreans are just really smart. I think they've proven it by their worldwide capability with their two, brands, which are basically the same company. So the products are good, the manufacturing is good, the
And their
price is
markets
good.
in which they operate are rich enough to buy something this premium,
Right.
including Korea and
And
the US. And
already making in the United States. So I do I've always believed that Hyundai Kia was a likely candidate. And I've also do believe that BYD is a likely candidate because of their position in the marketplace. They are very near the top. They have the potential just by growing another 50% next year to be in the top three, maybe even passing Volkswagen within 12 months, and maybe they'd be number two to Toyota, maybe even passing Toyota. Maybe if you're already at 600, if you're already at 6 million, you only have to grow 5% to be at 9 million. You might be number one in the world. So I think I may have told you the story before, but when I was trying to sell my bottle company, I got a call from an Indian company. And the Indian company said, "We want to buy your business." And I said, "Really?" I said, "That's interesting that you would call all the way from India, be interested," because we didn't sell any in India. And he says, "Yeah." He says, "We're the number two manufacturer of those bicycle style water bottles that you make. We sell almost as many as you do. And we want to be number one in the world. And the way we can become number one in the world is to buy you." So that gave them an entry to the US market. It gave them et cetera, et cetera. So I don't need to go to that story in any more depth. But BYD is in that same position. If they don't get if they don't get automated self-driving, they leave open the potential for Tesla to lap them within a couple of years. As they stay stagnant, Tesla laps them. If they do decide to join in, they get the potential to maintain their continued growth, and Tesla and BYD become number one and number two. And Tesla probably doesn't care which one they are, and maybe BYD won't at that point either, but they will be going along the same trajectory.
well, I think if Tesla has this solved in 2025, everyone will line up, because if the option is we can partner with this company XYZ, but they need, $500 per month per car for remote operators, or even 5,000. But even if it's 500, even if it's, $100 a month, it's too much money. You can't do it. So I think they would, if Tesla has a solution that's more like $50 a month in remote operation costs, because I don't think it can drop to zero legally in many places in the world. I
Well, I
think
don't
it
think
would,
it would practically either. I've been
uh,
saying
uh,
that forever.
yeah, I could see it getting stuck in a parking garage where it's just confused. I can
A
see that
flat
happening.
tire,
A flat tire.
somebody dies in the car. I mean, you've got to have to
Yeah,
have a way
yeah,
to talk to somebody.
yes. And I think that's, yeah, I think Tesla would it stands the best likelihood of getting to that point where remote operation would be an inconsequential percentage of the price. And if they do, heaven help us, man, it's over.
Okay, well, it's been fun going through the various companies and seeing who would be and who might not be at the top of the list. It would certainly be even more fun if one of them decided in the next couple of months to actually pull the lever and watch the stock go to 600.
Love it. Love it.
All right, Brian. As always, people should watch his channel. They should follow him around as he travels around the country. They should offer him rooms in place. People keep calling me, Brian. Why is it that they call me? They go, I've got a room for Brian. I've got a car for Brian. What's going on?
Yeah,
What's happening?
yeah. You can reach out to me directly. Randy is not my agent.
Yes, I'm the concierge. I just didn't know it. All right,
He's
Brian.
my Alfred.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well,
That makes me Batman.
okay, we're all good. It's been swell, Brian. And to all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.